Hello puppets, and welcome to another video talking about Lies of P. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about what kinds of DLC I would like to see in this game, because this game is fantastic, obviously, as you all know, and I'm really hoping it's going to get a bunch of DLC or additional content or just some things to really fill out this game and make it a more complete package, because I do love this game, but one criticism that I personally have is that it's very linear, and I think adding some additional content and additional side things that do will really go a long way in helping increase the replayability of this game, because as I said, it is very linear, and that does mean that it runs into the Armored Core 6 problem, which is that there's only so many ways in which you can really play through the game, especially when there's only really 3 main weapon types in this game, which is obviously considerably less than games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring. Obviously it's more focusing on the Bloodborne approach this game is, and Bloodborne obviously does have more limited playstyles in the game, but I think it does, of course, cause that main issue, which is that there's less ways in which you can play through the game. So I think one thing that I personally would like to see is additional areas added to the game. Not necessarily in a traditional DLC style though, but just extra areas in which you can explore. Maybe add some areas to the side of areas. So maybe take like an area like the Krat City Hall and add an extra path you can explore on one of the sides of it, which leads to an optional area, and then just have some simple environmental storytelling in that area and one boss at the end maybe, and that will add a big amount of replayability, because that means that now you can choose to go and continue through the main story path or go to this extra optional area to the side, and that is adding that extra replayability, because it's adding different ways in which you can go through the game. You can choose to go this other path, and that adds a bit more to that area. And I think that's the main thing that I would like to see, is perhaps maybe, yes, let's have a DLC, a traditional DLC like the Old Hunters from Bloodborne, but maybe whilst we're waiting for that DLC, or in addition to that DLC, instead of doing a second DLC, add a few little areas every now and again, every month or so, add an extra area which goes off of one of the main locations. That allows you some choice and some freedom into how you approach the game. Because one thing that I was quite disappointed about is that when you have the hotel, the main hotel in this game, there are other areas which come off of that main hotel which you can get to. Well, you can go to the door from the very beginning, from the first time you get to the hotel. You can go to that extra door which goes to that other street area, but you can't open it, which means that you can't go to that part of the game even though it is still connected to the main area, and that makes it quite limited. I would quite like it if instead you could choose to go to that other area right from the get-go if you wanted to, even if it is much more difficult, because that's giving you freedom. That means that you can go to that area, but maybe you can't get to the main story elements. So maybe you can't fight the boss yet of that area, or you can't, continue further down that path if it would impact the story, but you can still go to that area and you can still explore it, but you can't maybe get too far into the area where it would impact the story. I think these are things that really would help Lies of P and make it more replayable. I don't think we're going to get it, but it would be interesting to see if they did add more of a magic system to this game. If they did add more, spells and things, because that's something that Lies of P doesn't really lean into. You do have some, attacks and things with your left arm, but you can't, go and do actual spells. I think, there are some arms which do kind of serve that purpose. For example, the electric shock that you can do with your left arm would normally be a spell in Dark Souls, but I think it'd be good to see that kind of maybe more of a magic system implemented into the game, which would just add a bit more replayability, because again, that's something Bloodborne lacked. Obviously, I don't want to compromise the developer's vision. Obviously, they didn't want to have that in the game. I have been saying that I don't think that the developer should cave into peer pressure and add these things that normally are in Souls games because people are asking for them. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't like to see it if it was introduced, something like that. But obviously I do think they really should not change the game based on what people want. They should stick to their vision. But I do think that the world design is one thing I do think Lies of P is just generally weak at. The game is very linear, and that does take away from it a bit for me, But I do think that it'd be good to see some other areas, like I said, added onto the side potentially to add a bit of extra content in that way to make it a bit more replayable. Another thing is obviously a boss rush. This is always talked about with every single Dark Souls game. The only game to add that kind of thing is Sekiro, really, but it's not a traditional boss rush, but you can fight the bosses again. It'd be good to have that kind of thing implemented into Lies of P, I think. Again, it'd be really cool if the first proper boss rush mode was added in by the developer of a Souls-like, as opposed to a main Souls game. That'd be a pretty good thing for them to say they did. They added in a boss rush mode, a proper boss rush, before From Software did it. I think that'd be a really good thing for NeoWiz to say that they did, and I think it'd be pretty cool, especially with this game, because the bosses are very creative, the designs are really cool, and I love the visual aesthetic of those. And I think, it'd be cool as well for people like me. Maybe add some achievements to it. You have, say, you beat the bosses in a certain amount of time, and you can get an achievement. I love going for achievements in games. It's something that I've always loved doing, and I've never really done it much in Souls games because usually the achievements are very simple, like collect all magic, collect all of this, collect all items. Do very simple achievements, which are just for. Yeah, it's not like a big challenge, like, defeat these bosses in a certain amount of time. Defeat this boss in this many minutes. Those things would be really cool to do. Maybe you could even have it tied to an in-game challenge system, which allows you to unlock more costumes. That'd be really cool. Anyway, these are just ideas that I'm throwing out. Let me know down in the comments below what kind of things you would like to see added to Lies of P in additional content. I'd be really interested in seeing what you think, and I might make a follow-up video when we get closer to some more DLC being announced, or maybe when they announce the roadmap or something. Might make a follow-up video talking about the things that you would let me know down in the comments below that you would like to see. So, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe share it with anyone that might enjoy it. If it was good enough, thank you again for watching. This is Chaos Soul signing out. Have a good one.